So did you vote?
I don't think I did.
Oh, come on.
No one's ever asked me that before, and I don't think I did because I had worked so far ahead. And of course, what I had done was drawn both versions.
Hey everyone, welcome to Comics with Bueller. As always, I am Bueller, and I am here today with none other, a friend of mine, Dan Jurgens. Dan, how you doing today?
Great, Bueller. It's good to see you again. Good to be here.
It's very good to see you. I've had you on the show before. I actually got the chance to meet you at a con just a few months ago. We had a really nice time. You had to borrow some tape, so that kind of introduced us together. And we spent the weekend together, shared some coffee and some really fun stories. And you know what? It was a pleasure to get to meet you. And now I have you on the show again. So how you been doing the last few months?
Quite well. It's been busy. There's always a lot of work to do. I think if we go back to that convention, I don't know about you, but that was my first convention coming out of the pandemic. Not that we're out of the pandemic, but my first convention in quite some time. And it was good to be there with people again. And it's good to have been at a couple others.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites. We were actually just talking about this just a second ago. And like you said, it was one of your first ones back. What was your expectations when you went back to your first Comic-Con after a while? Did it succeed your expectations? Were you happy to be there? I mean, there was no mask mandate at the time, so we got to enjoy everyone.
Yeah, I don't know what I had as expectations before, other than just looking forward to doing it again and getting out and being with people. But what I found was a lot of enthusiasm for comics. I think that shared sensibility that everybody was really glad to be out and having conventions again. And the other thing I found out was that I was out of convention shape. And by convention shape, I just mean, all of us had been locked in our houses for so long that all of a sudden to sit at a table and smile and be gracious and nice and, and use those facial muscles again that none of us had used for a year or more, it was hard after a while. Now, I admit, it's not like we're, digging ditches, not that kind of hard, but all of a sudden I was sitting there, and after I had signed, a few hundred autographs, it's like, oh, wow, those muscles those convention muscles hadn't been used for a long time.
Well, have you had a chance to use those convention muscles again since then?
Yeah, I have. I've done a couple of more since, and it's been good to be out and, just now starting to set everything up for 2022.
Nice. What's your next convention on your list?
I'm not sure what it's going to be yet because we haven't nailed everything down. One of the things that's happening is, 2022 is going to be the 30th anniversary of the death of Superman. So we have a few things that I think are going to be tailor-made for that. And so that becomes a factor as well. So we're just now starting to sort through everything and see what it is we want to prioritize.
Should be an interesting 2022 for you. You just made us both feel probably very old saying a 30-year anniversary of that, right?
Well, I was 7 years old when I did that. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay there, Dan. We see where we're going here.
Yeah, I was very talented at the age of 7.
There you go.
Yeah.
Dan, there's something else that brings us together today that's really kind of cool. And I got to say thank you right off the bat. This is my first time to be able to say thank you, kind of looking at you in person here.
Oh, you're welcome.
But you and I have an exclusive variant through Dynamite Comics, Mars Attacks Red Sonja, number 1. Is it Mars Attacks Red Sonja or Red Sonja Mars Attacks? Because Mars Attacks is on the head there at first, but then I see it listed as Red Sonja, so I get a little confused.
I thought it was Red Sonja, but doesn't really matter. And maybe what you do is you change the title on every other copy or something.
There we go. Another variant.
Yeah.
But you know what? Let's talk about that. It's an Indiegogo campaign going on right now. I think we're about 10 days into it right now. There's many different versions of this book, and I'll actually pop it up here on screen.
Okay.
Really fast, so we can take a look at this wonderful comic. Now, let me point out the thing right away. Well, obviously, beautiful Red Sonja, the Mars Attacks, and then there's this other guy that's in the background.
Right.
This is his very first appearance. And I got to say, you drew this.
Yeah.
And you are the very first one to add Comics with Bueller or Bueller myself to a comic book. is that right up there with killing Superman?
Oh, several steps above. By
Now,
all means.
when you drew this, did you draw that from memory, or did you have a picture of myself? Because I noticed.
No, no, not from memory. I did have to go online and cheat a little bit, so went and got a little bit of reference. But it was a lot of fun to do because the Mars Attacks cards were a little bit before my time, but there were some older guys in the neighborhood who had some of those. So it was like, okay, after all this time, because I remember first seeing Mars Attacks and going, wow, these things what are these? And having that kind of reaction.
Yeah.
So it was great fun to be able to get to draw them, and great fun as well to be able to get to draw Red Sonja.
Yeah. And I'm a big fan of Mars Attacks. It's kind of when Dynamite approached me about this project, they brought up their Red Sonja or Vampirella and stuff, and I'm a fan of those, but I'm a bigger fan of Mars Attacks, and always loved the Tim Burton movie and all that stuff.
Oh yeah.
So the fact that we can combine those two characters or franchises together and then throw me in the background, I gotta tell you, I've had fan art sent my way of pictures of me, and every one of them included a chin. But you did not put a chin on there, and that is more realistic than I've ever seen, because I did not have a good chin. So I want to say thank you for keeping that 100% realistic. I mean, you got the chinless thing, you got the vest, you got the hat, the glasses, you nailed it. And you know what? Like I said, I gotta say thank you once again for honestly, as a comic book fan, you actually made one of my dreams come true.
Oh, great. I'm happy to have been able to do that.
Yeah. So, I mean, looking at that, knowing that, out there in the world, there's a comic literally with the character of me on that book. This is, I guess, considered a first appearance on the cover of a book. So CGC, take note. I guess they have to put that on there now. And courtesy of Dan Jurgens, the person who, like I said, killed Superman, now gives life to Comics with Bueller on the cover of Mars Attacks Red Sonja.
And I would also speculate that once you get that print made of it to hang in your booth at all your future shows, it's going to look pretty good.
Yes, very much so. I'm very excited. Yeah. And we have, there's many options on the Indiegogo for anyone who's looking for this. You can actually get this copy. There is the black and white copy as well. There's the virgin copy. There is autographs. Me and Dan are doing autographs for them as well, where they'll be sent to us. We'll autograph them and send them back. There's many different tiers, and there's a bunch of your other work on there as well, Dan, that people can pick up some of your work on Superman and some really great autographs. I think it was Superman 1000.
Which Action Comics 1000, yeah,
Action Comics 1000, which you had the opportunity to work on and stuff. What was that like, working on such an icon? Well, let me take that back, because that's a whole nother category I want to get into. Let me stick with this one for right now. So when you were approached to do this, and our mutual friend Nick from Dynamite said, hey, I want to do this thing with Comics with Bueller, were you all on board? Were you a little hesitant? Because, I mean, you only knew me for just a few days. I mean, hopefully I left a good impression on you.
Yes, you did leave a good impression on me. And really, at first, I didn't quite get what the goal was. I said, so wait a minute. You mean there's a Red Sonja cover and a Mars Attacks cover? And then, no, it's a joint thing. And it's like, really? Okay. And I think it was sort of that weird juxtaposition of elements that attracted me to it. And when you think about it, Red Sonja, with the sword, and the Mars Attacks, okay, that would be fun. And sometimes, it is a lot of fun just to do something that takes you outside the norm, just to do these, sort of one-shot projects that take a few days to do, and it's like, it's done. And so this one fit that bill perfectly. So yeah, it was good to do.
Awesome. Now I want to let everyone know, like I said before, when this project was presented to me, they asked me the artist I would like, and I was like, they named a couple. I said, no, that just doesn't fit. And I kind of described the style I was looking for, and then boom, your name pops up. How about Dan Jurgens? I'm like, are you serious? Are you serious? And I said, Nick, I literally just met Dan like a couple weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I think we hit it off pretty good. I would be honored to have Dan do the cover and actually put me on the cover. So it just worked out. We heard back from you within just a couple days, and it was a go. And here we are now with this Indiegogo campaign with this wonderful cover provided by you. And you know what? Like I said, a dream come true. So thank you, sir, so much for doing this.
You are welcome. And you're also right that when it first came up, we had just met only a couple of weeks earlier, because it then took me, like, I think almost 2 months to clear the decks to even have time to work it in. So yeah, that's actually absolutely true.
Yeah, it worked. It was meant to be. So I was glad that Washington State SummerCon brought us together, and now we're even closer. Now we're now we made history.
And thumbs up to Washington State SummerCon. Those folks do a great job, and we all had a great time there. So plug for them.
Yeah, I love them. I've been there for 3 years. I'm a host for their panels for all the comic book guests and stuff. And hopefully you come back to it. I don't know, within the next year or the year after or whatever. If you are, I'd love to host your panel again. And just me and you this time. You know, we'll have a good time just to focus on some good stuff.
Sure, why not?
But let's get into some of your work that let's just say most people will be familiar with. And the biggest one being Superman. And your work on Superman. Exactly what you did to Superman not really happens very often. So let me ask you this. So you were in charge of pretty much killing Superman. Was there ever any hesitation about pulling the trigger?
No. I mean, I think, first of all, it was an idea that we had discussed very briefly a couple of times previously anyway, as sort of a cool story for Superman. And even walking into that meeting, I had a yellow legal pad with 2 ideas written down on it, which was just Monster Crashes Metropolis, and the other one was Death of Superman. And at that time, those were not even related projects. And as we talked through a whole lot of stuff, the monster ended up becoming Doomsday, and Doomsday ended up becoming the one who killed Superman. And as we built out the story in that room, where we had Mike Carlin as editor, the other 3 writers, Jerry Ordway, Roger Stern, and Weezy Simonson, and all the artists on the books, we built out a story where we knew we were saying something definitive about Superman. And that, just like in our own lives, if someone passes on, we start to think about what it was that they meant to us. We knew we could do that type of storytelling here with Superman and really address his importance to the world and to us as fans. And so I always had a lot of confidence in that story and just really was excited by the potential. So yeah, I didn't have any hesitation at all.
Nice. Now you were in charge of pretty much bringing Doomsday to life. How do you go after a character and realize, okay, this character has to be the one that kills Superman? I mean, that's not just a regular character, run-of-the-mill new character creation. This character is becoming something that's going to be legendary, that's going to change comics, that has to have the power to be able to kill the most powerful superhero ever created. What was your steps in going into that character?
Well, first of all, we couldn't know that Doomsday was necessarily going to become legendary. We knew we would use him to kill Superman. We did not know, would he even be remembered or cared about 5 years later? What we got into really, we first had the discussion of, if we do the Death of Superman, who should it be as murderer? Should it be Lex Luthor? Should it be Brainiac? Mm-hmm. Should it be Parasite? Should, you go down the list, and who should it be? And I think, it's fair to say that we got more and more intrigued by the idea of doing it with someone new. That everyone's first reaction would be, yeah, of course it's Luthor. And, the idea then of doing it with someone new was intriguing to us. And the phrase that we sort of used to describe Doomsday is that he was a force of nature, and therefore very much the opposite of Superman. Superman is the voice of reason and logic. And more than any other hero in the DC universe, if he lands in front of a villain who's about to, destroy the bank, public library, whatever, Superman, rather than just go punch him out, is the one who might say, you sure you want to do that? You want to reconsider? Because he has that sense of reason to him. And Doomsday, by not having that sense of reason, by being able to give us that knockdown, drag out, kick-ass fight that I was so desperate to draw, that I think is what made him appealing to us as creators and to the project and to fans as well.
Very nice. Now, when you got on board on Superman and you had a tremendous run on Superman, was that the big get for you? I mean, times change as far as like the popularity of comics and characters or whatnot, and probably popularity of characters right now are different than what they were years back. Was Superman back then the top spot on the comic book mountain, and then you were on top of that mountain, creating Superman? Did you feel as though you were pretty much at the peak?
No, I don't think so. And I say that because if I felt that way, then that would mean when I come off it, I'm going down the other side of the mountain, right? And I think really the way the creative process works is that you sort of have to make yourself feel like whatever project you're working on is that top of the mountain at that moment. And it's just the way it has to work. And I was fortunate enough to have, throughout my career, worked on any one of a number of different projects that I could consider the top of the mountain, whether it was, drawing DC versus Marvel, whether it was writing and drawing Justice League, whether it was, writing and drawing Captain America. I have done so many different things that I could consider any of them kind of that top of the mountain. So I prefer to look at it as a mountain range with a lot of different peaks that I've been able to kind of jump from one to the next.
Yeah. So let's start about your start in comics. So right now you're an artist, you're a writer as well, but you didn't start off as a writer. You started off as an artist, correct?
Right. Yes. On Warlord for DC. Yes.
On Warlords. And how was that your first love, was the artwork, or did you always want to be a writer as well? Was that right there? You just haven't developed that skill yet, or you just haven't had the opportunity?
It was, so when I started, I had Mike Grell, who was the creator of Warlord and writing the character and drawing it at the time, was in town doing a signing at a comic book store. And I stopped and showed him my work. And it just so happened that they were also looking for a new artist on Warlord. He said, I really like this stuff. This is great. Send it into our editor, Lori Sutton. Let's see what she thinks, which I did. And, they gave me a couple of test pages. And within just a short time, I was drawing the book. But even as I did that, I always knew I wanted to both write and draw. And, I'd kind of drop hints in people's ears at DC whenever we talk about that.
Yeah.
So that shortly after that, I did a book called Sun Devils. That
number 8, I believe.
Well, that's when I started writing, but I drew the first issue as written by Roy Thomas and Jerry Conway, and I worked with them in creating it. And then, yes, Jerry was writer-editor on the book, and as he could no longer script it, he said, well, what would you like to finish it out? And it was based on our conversations as we worked Marvel style. And so it was based on our conversations as writer and artist and the dialogue notes I would write in the border and things like that. So that's very much how that one kind of came together. And once that did, I was off and running.
Now, do you approach them the same, the art and doing the art or doing the story? Do you approach them the same? Is there one that you favor more than the other as far as projects?
I don't know that I favor one over the other. I think what it is more is I try to make sure that there is a shared sensibility in whether I write it or whether I draw it based on the moments that I think a good comic story has to have, whether it's a big presence on the page or a splash page or a dramatic moment. As I write, even if am writing for someone else, I often visualize the storytelling in my head the way I would do it, and I'm very open to letting the artist do it their own way, because that's only fair and right, and it gets me a more involved partner, which is good. So it's more about the dramatic beats and how you portray that, be it through word or visualization.
Nice. Now, is there certain other creators, as far as if you're doing the writing and you have an artist, or you're doing art and you have a writer, is there certain other creators that you click with better, that you just kind of, man, that we really nailed this together and really enjoy working with them on both ends, both as a writer and a artist?
Yeah, I mean, at both ends. I mean, I've been very fortunate to work with some really great and talented people. And when I first got into the business, I was able to draw scripts from writers where I could learn from them, whether it was, a Jerry Conway or a Denny O'Neil or Archie Goodwin, or, even Jim Starlin, who did some writing work on Superman at the time that I was drawing from. And then later, being able to write for some of the guys who had been there long before me, like John Buscema, like Gil Kane, and so many others, Kurt Swan, and see how they approach the page. We all end up being informed by those that we are fortunate enough to work with. So there's been a lot of good stuff and little, sort of inside baseball tricks and approaches and techniques that I've learned from a wide variety of people.
Nice. So let's talk about a couple of your past works as well that people might not be as familiar with. Let's start off with Tomb Raider.
Sure.
The number one selling comic book of 1999.
Yeah.
And I believe, which a lot of people probably didn't. I didn't realize that until I did some research. But you worked on that for a while.
Well, it's funny just because, people talk about, some of the best-selling books I've done and stuff, and I can go back through and, people might remember, obviously, Death of Superman, sure, or 0 Hour, or DC versus Marvel. But yeah, then Tomb Raider from 1999 hit that as well, which was really gratifying at the time. And it was a lot of fun to do. It was to write something based on a video game was very different at that time. So it was a good exercise to have to wrap my head around and to be able to do something like that was different, but it was a lot of fun. And the thing I appreciate now as well is, so even now, all these years later, people will bring me their copies of Tomb Raider to have signed. And so many of them are women. I always suspected that we had a larger than normal percentage of women and girls reading that book. And it turns out it was true. And it's really fun to see that and have it proved out all these years later.
Nice. Your research on that title, did you have to go and do a little bit of gaming yourself?
I did, and had to understand, what they had done previously in terms of Lara Croft's character, make some adjustments just so it would fit regular comics and storytelling a little better, which I think we did, and I think it was necessary, and I think we pulled it off. So, and then also understanding the game and what aspects of the game would translate to comics and which ones wouldn't, because they're very different beasts.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on that one, because like I said, I wasn't aware that it was like the number one selling book for that year. And for a non-superhero title book or a Marvel DC book to do that, and based on a video game for that matter, it doesn't happen very often. That might be the only video game title comic book that was number one for a whole year. I'm pretty sure you hold that record. So congratulations there, Dan. That's
I have no idea if that's true, but thank you. I'll take it.
There you go. You mentioned this.
Otherwise.
You mentioned this a little earlier, the Marvel versus DC or DC versus Marvel that you worked on. How was that? I mean, I sit there and I think to myself, okay, how is the board meetings for that one? Who decides who you don't want your characters to look weak against the other characters or whatnot? So how is that balancing that act with the both publishers and giving the right amount of time to each character and not making one side look more powerful than the other?
It was, I'll use that word sensibility again. And, the broad strokes had already been put together by the involved editors at each of the companies, primarily, Mike Carlin and Mark Grunwald, they had kind of built out sort of the framework of how the project would work. So that once then Ron Mars and Peter David came in to write it, they were totally informed as well as we were as to the idea that, look, there are no favorites here. It's going to be a 50-50 split. We're going to try and give equal attention to all the characters across the board and make it, that, again, that 50-50 split between Marvel and DC. And really the only time it would not be reflected in the pages is in the fights of the characters that the fans got to vote on. And that was out of our hands. So once that was done, the fans got to decide.
So did you vote?
I don't think I did.
Oh, come on.
No one's ever asked me that before, and I don't think I did because I had worked so far ahead. And of course, what I had done was drawn both versions.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So so if we take the 5 different fights and the 10 different characters involved, we had to have 10 different scenes where each of the other versions won.
So if you had to vote today, who would you vote for?
Yeah, I would not necessarily have differed a lot from what ended up appearing in the pages. I might have just even, I would have been tempted just to structure a couple of the battles differently anyway, because I wanted it to be Superman versus Thor. I do know that. So that's probably where I would come in. Is just can we reshuffle the deck just a little bit here?
That is one of my favorite series I have in my collection. I still have those. I don't think I voted, to be honest, as well.
Okay.
So, I mean, don't feel bad if you. I guess we both did vote for it. But between Thor and Superman right now, let's ask for that vote. What would you vote on that one? You wrote both of those.
I did for quite long runs on both. I would say the difficulty would be that Thor has an aspect of magic to him that would be tough for Superman to overcome. But at the same time, if there's any character in the DC universe who could pick up the hammer, would that not be Superman? So if you start to play with some of those possibilities, I think it can get you to a really good conclusion. And I will say, when the crossovers were a regular thing, I had 2 that I wanted to do. And one was Superman Fantastic Four, which we got to do. And that, we did a treasury size. So it was definitely another one of those mountain peaks we've talked about. And then I always wanted to get to Superman and Thor. And it's a shame that we didn't. Do
you think that day will ever happen? You've been in the industry a long time. Do you think those days of those companies working together happens without a buyout?
Right now, it seems very, very distant. And it's just because of the corporate ownership and structure between the 2 teams. I think, I could walk into the DC offices or the Marvel offices, I'm sure, and find plenty of people there who wanted to do it.
Yes.
But their corporate structures above them, I think, would make it very hard to do.
So speaking of the Marvel and DC offices, you got some current projects you're working on right now for both.
Yeah.
And let's talk about your current book that you're working on now for DC, which is the Blue and Gold, which I believe issue 4 hits today.
Issue 4 hits today. It's a really fun issue because what we do in this is, we go back to the very early days when Booster Gold joined the Justice League. And he met Ted Kord, Blue Beetle, for the first time. And what we find out in this story is they both have different memories of their first adventure. And so we see the story as told by Booster, which is in a sequence that I drew. We see the memories in a sequence as told by Blue Beetle, which is drawn by Kevin McGuire. And then Ryan Sook, who's our regular artist, comes in to straighten it all out and tell us the third and real version of events as conveyed by our mystery guest star. So it was a fun issue to pull together. And I think for people who remember those fun Justice League International days, I think you're going to enjoy this.
Nice. Now, when we first met, the series hadn't came out. We were actually talking about it on the show, and now I believe we're halfway through. There's 8-issue series, correct?
Right.
And this is a monthly series, not bi-weekly and anything like that. So we got 4 more issues to go. Any little hints or spoilers what we can expect over the next 4? Don't give too much away, but maybe a little nugget.
Right. Yeah, I think we are going to have a couple of fun guest stars for people.
Nice.
And then also by the time we get to the end of the series, probably do a little more in the way of fan service and answer some questions that have been out there for a long time. So I think that's also going to allow us to build to a real nice conclusion where we take everything full circle.
Yeah. So you are the creator of Booster Gold. You brought that character to life. It's a superhero character who basically he's like the NASCAR version of superhero, to where he'll put the logos on him and stuff like that, and all that good stuff, and he's in the spotlight and everything. When you put that character together, what was your inspiration to bring Booster Gold to life?
Well, there were a couple of things. One is, I'll just start with the idea that, at that time, DC's editorial doors, shall we say, were wide open, where they'd say, if you have an idea, bring it to us. Nice. Let us know what it is you're thinking. And it was a fun and very creative place to be. And I think you can go back to DC in the mid 80s and see the wide array of projects that were coming out there and see that was the case. And so for me, also at that time, DC's heroes, primarily the Justice League, they were very perfect. Superman was perfect. Really all of them were. And I wanted to do the story of a hero that wasn't perfect and would also pick up on something that was happening more and more in the media at that time, which is sort of the celebration or the idolatry almost of celebrity culture. And TV shows like Entertainment Tonight had been fairly recent additions to the landscape, even People magazine, that were focusing more and more on celebrities. And those same celebrities were able to do more and more in the way of product endorsement and things like that. So as I explained Booster to DC, starting with Dick Giordano, I'd say, and that's what he does. He's out there to build up his, I didn't use the word brand in those days, but that's what it was, to build up his own brand, to endorse products, to make money doing it, but not in an evil way. And Dick would say, so he's a hero for hire. And I'd say, no. He's a hero who uses his heroic exploits to elevate his own profile. Yeah. And so I think that was timely in 1985. I think it is even more timely now. And in some ways, I think he's the perfect hero for where we're at societally right now. And the sky's really the limit for something like that, because in a way, it is the natural conclusion that any of us would come to were we in that role.
So he's kind of like the first social influencer.
Yes. Yeah.
Way ahead of his time.
Yeah. And that's why, with the first issue of Blue and Gold, when it came out, we made it very clear. He's got his social media accounts across the board going, so that when he goes into a fight, he is streaming the fight and fans can react. And eventually all these fans that we've seen commenting in the book, we're going to start to see some of them show up in the story. And because just like with comics, where fans now have greater access to us as pros, if you had that happening in real life, fans of superheroes would have greater access to them. Yeah. And I think it's just, again, I just think it's the natural evolution of where we're at.
Well, like I said, Blue and Gold comes out today, issue number 4. This is on a new comic book day. And we got 4 more issues to go. So if anyone's watching right now, go pick up Blue and Gold. It's been a great series so far. And there's a little bit of nuggets that Dan dropped as well. But Dan, you got some other stuff that you've been working on also for Marvel. You've been doing some covers lately. And I think if I'm not mistaken, I think you have an Amazing Spider-Man cover.
Yep.
And also a Hulk cover for the new Hulk series that hits next week, I believe.
Yep.
And I was taking a look at that. They look great. They look
thank you. Yeah. And so we have Amazing Spider-Man 79, and then as you mentioned it, Hulk #1. I think coming up soon after that is Captain America Iron Man #1. We did a cover for that. We are doing covers for the new Ben Reilly Spider-Man series that is going to be coming out, I think, in January. And when I say we, it's Brett Breeding and me, Brett and I, who we haven't worked together for like an eternity. And all of a sudden, here we are again, back together doing this wide range of covers for Marvel Comics. And in addition to that, I also have an issue of X-Men Legends coming out, I think the first week in December, that issue number 10 that I drew, and that was inked by Scott Hanna. So yeah, I'm in quite a variety of different places all of a sudden.
Nice. So right now you got tons of stuff. You got the regular DC book, 4 more issues on there, and then a bunch of covers. And the X-Men Legends, you're doing the artwork inside the book, is that correct?
Yes, yeah, cover and the interior, yes.
Very nice. Any independent books coming out or anything like that besides the great Indiegogo campaign that we got going on right now, the Mars Attacks Red Sonja?
Not yet. It's funny because I have these 3 or 4 different ideas that I keep saying, yeah, I have to go and run with one of these at some point. But to do that, I would have to cut off these other avenues, and I just haven't done it yet. But it's something I do have to get to, yes.
So let's hit on that for just 1 second. I mean, you've had a legendary career. You've been in the business for a long time. What is left on your bucket list? Is there anything left?
I do think that doing my own thing, that I can have total control over, is certainly one of those things. But I would also add, it's a little bit odd to be in the situation I'm in, just because with something like Booster Gold, which, because I created, wrote, and drew it, even though I don't own it, because not owning it wasn't such a possibility back when I first put it all together. Yeah. There's still that personal attachment to it, so that when I am doing the work, it feels like it is something like that, which I know is not necessarily the strict case, but it sort of is. And it's also an awful lot of fun for me to do because I'm working with Ryan Sook, who's such a great artist. I mean, Ryan is just doing tremendous work on the book to make it his. So for me, a lot of working in this business has been the fun of collaboration and the different people you get to work with. And, part of the problem with writing and drawing your own book is as soon as you're doing that, you're cutting off collaboration on so many other different fronts, because you have to become totally immersed in it. It becomes really that aspect of tunnel vision that doesn't allow for much of anything more. It's a tremendous commitment to write and draw a book. It's something I can't underscore boldly enough.
Nice. I was really hoping that you would say that your bucket list was met by putting Comics with Bueller on the cover of a Red Sonja book. But
I would have said that, but I didn't want to embarrass you.
We're going to show that back up on the screen again. Dan, that's pretty much all I have for you today. I want to show this one more time. The Mars Attacks Red Sonja. The Indiegogo campaign is going on right now. It's about 2.5 weeks left. There's many different options. Like I said, this is brought to you by Dan Jurgens. He brought to life Comics with Bueller on the cover, vest and all. Thank you so much, Dan. I mean, seriously, I said it before, I'll say it again. It's a dream come true. Never thought I would have the chance to sit there and say, hey, I'm now part of comic book history, whatever you want to call it. It is what it is. So thank you, Dan, so much for joining me today.
My pleasure.
Anything else you'd like to say to the fans?
No, just that hope you keep reading. Again, follow us on Blue and Gold. Keep on looking for those Marvel covers because they're going to start hitting the stands quite soon. And, and thanks for hanging in there with us during the pandemic. I think that one of the things, and I've had this discussion with a number of professionals, that we have really come to appreciate through not being able to have it, is our contact with you guys, the readers and fans, that maybe we all took for granted a little bit. And then all of a sudden, when it was gone, when we couldn't get together, we all felt that. And the comparison that I always used is it makes me feel like I was in 7th grade again. And by that, I mean, back then I would write and draw my own little comic stories, and then I'd put it in a drawer and never get to see it. And so during the pandemic, the depths, the worst of it all, we do these comics and I wouldn't even see them. It's like, did they come out? Did they show up in a store? Did anybody pick it up and read it? And I said, it's a little bit like doing your own stories in 7th grade again. So it's been great to see you out there and to see everybody kind of just getting out and having fun with the industry again. So thanks for hanging in there and supporting us.
Absolutely. I agree with everything Dan said. It's great to be able to go back to Comic Cons. It's great to be able to share our love of comics with everyone who also loves comics. Thank you again, Dan, for joining me today. It's been a lot of fun. I was really looking forward to talking to you again. I want to thank everyone for watching. Do me a favor. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You know what to do. We'll see you next time. Bye.